I moved to a little coastal town in California, one of those places that feels like it exists outside of time, where the gulls scream louder than the cars and the smell of salt water lingers in every corner of your lungs. The town was sleepy, the streets narrow, lined with clapboard houses painted in shades of seafoam and sand, and every cafe and diner smelled like strong coffee and fresh bread. I rented a small beachside house, nothing fancy, just enough to call it my own after leaving Los Angeles behind. The previous tenant had died. Suddenly, the landlord didn't volunteer details, just muttered something about tragic young. I didn't care. I wanted solitude. I wanted to disappear for a while. The first week was quiet, almost painfully so. I'd wake up to the crash of the ocean, pour myself a cup of coffee, and sit on the porch watching the fog roll in like soft gray blankets over the water. And then I found it. It was a phone, tucked inside the bottom drawer of the old wooden nightstand. At first, I thought maybe it belonged to me. I'd misplaced my own, but the case was scratched. The screen cracked slightly. A single voice memo app blinked open. Curiosity got the better of me. The first recording was him. A man's voice, warm and quiet, like the kind you'd lean into on a winter night. March 14th. Woke up thinking about nothing, and then about everything at once. Coffee tastes like hope today, or maybe like failure. I can't tell. I smiled softly to myself. There was something comforting about the randomness of it, like hearing the echo of a stranger's soul. I listened to another, then another. Days, jokes, half-finished thoughts, little dreams. He talked about the ocean, about books he loved, music he hated, women who didn't stay, friends who came and went. He had a laugh that caught in the microphone, genuine and warm. I started leaving the phone on the kitchen counter while I made breakfast, letting his voice fill the rooms. It became a habit. I didn't even realize it at first, just wanted to hear him. That's when I noticed something in the recordings. He knew. There was a quiet panic in the edges of his laughter, the way he whispered some nights, "I don't think I'll make it to summer, but maybe someone will hear this someday." I froze. His words hit me harder than I expected. He was gone, I realized, but he'd left pieces of himself behind, little crumbs scattered in sound waves and digital memory. And I fell in love. It wasn't like falling in love with a person. There was no touch, no shared glance over coffee, no late-night walks along foggy piers. But there was intimacy, a slow, burning intimacy, as if I'd wandered into someone's heart without ever meeting them. His voice became my world. I started talking back to the phone. "I like that song too," I whispered one morning, making coffee as the fog pressed against the windows. "I hate Mondays too, you know?" I could almost feel him smile. Almost. One evening, the recordings changed. His tone shifted, became more fragile, more urgent. "If you're hearing this, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for noticing me. I've always hoped someone would." My chest ached. I had to sit down. His voice was filled with a longing that was entirely unfulfilled, and yet somehow utterly sincere. I knew then I wasn't just hearing a stranger's thoughts. I was becoming part of his story, the only living part that would ever respond. I started leaving notes for him in the house. Silly little things. "Coffee's good today. Don't worry about that joke from last week. It was hilarious." I imagined him reading them, smiling, nodding. I knew it was foolish. He wasn't there. He couldn't be. But the ritual grounded me. It made the emptiness of the house feel like something else entirely. Days bled into weeks. I wandered the town as if I were looking for him, the people around me unknowingly walking through the edges of our private world. I'd sit in the diner on Main Street, sip black coffee, and imagine him sliding into the booth across from me, joking about how bad the pancakes were. There was a record store on the corner, old vinyls spilling into the cracked sidewalk. I started leaving small trinkets there too, little reminders, a note tucked in a record of his favorite band, a doodle of a lighthouse he mentioned once, a coffee cup with "Don't forget to laugh" scrawled on it. It became a game, a secret dialogue with someone who would never know it was me. The tragedy of it, if I could even call it that, was the truth I couldn't ignore. He'd recorded these voice memos knowing he was dying, leaving his voice like a beacon for someone he'd never meet. The depth of that kind of love, that kind of trust in the unseen, it tore me open. One morning, I found a final recording. His voice was weak, quieter than before, slower, but still unmistakably him. I hope this reaches someone who cares. I hope you laugh. I hope you love. I hope you find me in the cracks of your day, even if I'm gone. That's all I ever wanted. I pressed the phone to my chest, tears spilling down my face. I had never touched him, never seen him, and yet I was utterly in love. And the weight of knowing he would never come back, that he was already gone, crushed me with a gravity that left me trembling. I spent that day walking along the beach, letting the fog wrap me in its cold embrace. I talked to him aloud, though I knew he wouldn't answer. "I hear you," I said. "I'm listening. I'll always listen." That night, I slept with the phone beside me. His voice played softly, the last recording on a loop, as if he were whispering a lullaby directly into my soul. I woke to the sound of seagulls and the ocean again, but now the house felt alive in a new way. Alive with the memory of someone who had never been mine, and yet, somehow, always would be. I didn't know how to explain it to anyone. Friends in Los Angeles would have called it obsession, but it wasn't. It was love. Pure, tragic, impossible love. And it was mine. The days passed. I became part of the house, part of the town, but more than that, I became part of him. I started keeping a journal, writing down my responses to his memos, letters to a man I would never meet. I laughed more, cried more, felt more than I had in years. He had changed me without ever being there. And then one morning, as the sun spilled gold across the sand, I found a new recording. Not one he'd left, but one I hadn't noticed before, tucked in the drafts folder of the phone, a message he'd never sent. His voice trembled. "If you're out there, I wish I could see you. I wish I could touch you. I wish I had more time. But maybe you'll know me this way, and that will be enough. Maybe love like this, even when it's not returned, is enough." I clutched the phone to my chest. Enough. It was enough. The fog rolled in that evening, thick and white, swallowing the coastline. I walked to the water's edge, letting it curl around my ankles. I whispered to him, as I always did, I know you. I love you." And though he was gone, I believed, truly believed, that in some way he was listening. The weeks that followed, I carried him with me everywhere. Every sound, every small joy, every heartbreak was filtered through the echo of his voice. I started noticing details I'd never paid attention to before. The way the wind tangled in the telephone lines along Pacific Avenue, the way the fog turned streetlights into blurry halos, the taste of salt and coffee together on early mornings. It all reminded me of him, of the house, of the recordings that had become my lifeline. One rainy afternoon, I found myself in the tiny bookstore on Main Street. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped in, and the smell of old pages hit me like a warm blanket. I wandered toward the back, where the local history section was stacked crookedly on shelves, when I saw it, an old photo tucked into a book of coastal California poetry, It was him. He smiled at the camera, eyes crinkled in amusement, a casual tilt of his head like he knew a secret I was only just discovering. My breath caught. I didn't know who had left the photo or why it was here, but suddenly it felt like he was reaching through time, leaving another breadcrumb just for me. I bought the book, of course. I had to. And that night, I placed the photo beside the phone, letting the two pieces of him, the voice, the face, be together. I whispered, "You're real. You were real." The truth of it hit me hard. I loved someone I had never met, not physically, not tangibly, but with every part of me. It was unorthodox, tragic, and yet unbelievably pure. I felt more alive than I had in years, more human, more connected, but it also left a hollow ache in my chest that nothing else could fill. One evening, I decided to explore the cliffside trail near the lighthouse he had mentioned countless times in his recordings. The wind tore through my hair, the ocean pounding below in a relentless rhythm. I walked until I reached the tip, where the waves crashed into jagged rocks and spray kissed my face. I closed my eyes, imagining him there beside me, saying something witty like he always did. "Don't look down too long. You might see yourself cry." I laughed softly, tears mixing with the mist. That's when I felt it, the strange, almost tangible sense of presence, like the universe was holding its breath. I whispered to him aloud, "I wish you were here. I wish I could tell you everything." The house became a shrine in a quiet way. I cleaned, I cooked, I filled the rooms with candles, music, and notes. Each memo of his was played on a loop sometimes, a ritual that grounded me in reality while letting me drift in the fantasy of having him near. Months passed. I started recording my own voice memos, leaving them on the phone, talking to him as if I were sending replies into the ether. "I saw a dog today," I said one morning, smiling through tears. "And it reminded me of that stupid joke you made about Mondays. You'd have laughed." The strangest thing was, it worked. It worked in a way I can't explain. I felt him with me, in my own voice, in my own laughter, as if love itself had the power to transcend life and death. Then one night, everything shifted. I was sifting through the phone, hoping to find another recording, when I stumbled upon a locked folder. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were dozens of messages he never sent, his voice softer, weaker, but filled with love and hope. "If you're listening to this, know that you are enough. You are everything I wanted. I love you, even though I will never see you. Remember me in laughter. Remember me in sorrow. Remember me in the spaces you think are empty." I fell to my knees. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. He had been leaving these messages for someone he hoped would come along. That someone was me. Every word, every laugh, every confession, it was meant to be heard by me. The final recording ended with a whisper that made my heart shatter and swell at the same time. "I'm already gone, but I hope you love as fiercely as I imagined you would. Carry me with you, always." I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, the ocean outside like a heartbeat beneath the house. I understood now. The love I felt wasn't just grief. It was an obsession. It was real, and it was pure, because it was untainted by the ordinary trials of life. It was a love that existed beyond time, beyond touch, beyond anything I could have imagined. The days that followed were quiet, but they were full. I started writing letters, not to send, not to leave behind, just to speak aloud to the man whose life had touched mine in ways no one else could. "I laughed today," I said one morning as the sun burned gold across the waves, "and it was because of you. I carried you with me, and I smiled." I began exploring the town more intentionally, walking the piers, visiting diners, listening to conversations of strangers. Everywhere I went, I imagined him there, leaving invisible trails only I could follow. It wasn't pain anymore. It was a constant companion, a quiet warmth that I could hold without fear of losing. And then, one late summer evening, I walked down to the beach, the phone in my pocket, the waves curling around my feet. The fog rolled in softly, cloaking the world in silver and gray. I sat down on the sand, pulled the phone out, and pressed play on the final recording once more. "I'm already gone," he whispered. But I smiled. "Yes," I said aloud, voice trembling, "and I carry you with me." I let the phone fall to my lap. I closed my eyes, feeling the fog on my face, the wind through my hair, the pulse of the ocean beneath me. I felt him everywhere, his laughter, his sorrow, his hope. And I finally understood something profound. Love doesn't need presence. Love doesn't need touch. Love doesn't even need time. It exists in memory, in voice, in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. I stood up, letting the waves lap at my legs. The fog swirled around me like a veil, hiding everything but the sky. And in that moment, I knew I would never stop loving him. Not ever. I turned toward the small town, the lighthouse faint in the distance, the streets empty and quiet, and I whispered one last time, "I fell in love with the man who was already gone, and it changed me forever." And it was enough.